I'm Atomic Wolf, and today we'll be continuing the biography series of 12 Days to Midnight, an audio drama based in the wonderful world of Bioshock that's soon to get its sequel, After Midnight. Today we'll be discussing the tale of two sister-like friends who carried on their journey to the depths of Rapture. However, when tensions between the working class and everyone else came to a head, things began to change between the girls. This is the story of Ada Johnson and Nina Thompson. To provide some context of how strong their friendship is, you have to go further back before Rapture's founding. Like many who succumbed to the financial horrors of the stock market crash of 1929, Ada and Nina would become byproducts of the Great Depression like so many others. Beginning with Ada, a rough and tumble and self-indulgent New Yorker, Miss Johnson and her family were forced to leave the Big Apple to try and find new life further down south. They stopped at Kansas, where Ada attempted to find work. However, with such low-paying work around, accompanied by her disdain for the simple life, Miss Johnson spent most of her time lazing around and getting drunk at the local saloons. She was a party girl, a live fast and die young type who never liked to sleep before midnight. This brings us to Nina, a prim and proper girl who was regarded as far too pretty for such a working-class town. She was a simple girl who desired nothing more than to live a quiet life on the countryside with her childhood friend, Mortimer Thompson. Ironically, Nina's slowly thinning bloodline of relatives used to be hardened criminals a few generations past. And though she herself wasn't one, she soon would be. As kind as Mortimer was to Nina, he started out early as a petty criminal, but with a heart. This rubbed off on Nina, and her introduction to Ada would only send things to the next level. The young couple met Miss Johnson at the local saloon one night, and they each quickly became friends. After spending a good bit of time together, Ada became aware of Nina and Mortimer's low-level crimes and proposed to show them how shoveling big money was made. Ada remained generally crime-free since she left New York, but it was only a matter of time before she went back to her old ways. In no time, Ada took Nina in particular under her wing, and they found themselves becoming two of the most notorious criminals in the region. They held up anything from stores to gas stations, roaming across neighboring states repeating their offenses. Throughout their whole journey together, it became apparent that Ada was more willing to get her hands dirty than Nina. Though Nina was no stranger to holding guns in these holdups, Ada was the one who had a mind to use them. Sometimes she did. No thought of the future was in mind for Ada when it came to these scores. She was born to live hard in her mind, demanding free money out of life in order to spend it on booze and cocaine. Then repeat the process. It wasn't in Nina's heart to even think about doing these sorts of things. She was a good girl, but couldn't help but enjoy a rush like this in her young life. Occasionally, Mortimer would tag along with his gang of street friends and assist the pair, and it would be some time later that would require the three of them to flee the country entirely. As the Great Depression came to a close, Nina would at some point marry Mortimer and put her life of crime behind her. Thanking her lucky stars, she was never named in the series of robberies. Ada, on the other hand, was in too deep and way too boastful to quit now. Though she too put a damper on the frequency of her crimes, the rise of World War II would bring her and Nina back to work. Heavy rationing and budgeting due to the war effort reconnected the two friends, and they continued where they left off in the first half of the 1940s. Despite the brutality of what they did, this was prime bonding time for the two women, reiterating how close of friends they were. But like many criminal enterprises, there was a point where the pieces start to crumble. One day, Ada got a line on a supply train coming through town, possibly carrying anything from gold reserves to valuable ration stamps. This would be the one to get them places, the biggest score either of them would make. At first, they contemplated on getting help from Mortimer's gang, but Ada's greed would prevent that idea from seeing the light of day. It would be only two of them aboard the train to see what was in store, and no one else. The pair would be surprised to find that Ada's predictions were wrong. After hopping the train and subduing a few guards, Ada and Nina found a plethora of coal and other items only valuable to a locomotive. They jumped off the train and escaped without a scratch. This would come with major backlash, however, as a statewide search for the girls would come as a result of the public outrage of this attempted robbery. Ada holed up with Nina and Mortimer for a time, where Mortimer continued to work his industrial job to support the three of them. They were basically sitting and waiting with fears of ever going outside again. However, it wouldn't be till 1949 when Andrew Ryan would send a personal invitation to Mortimer to become part of his new and thriving city. His years of work experience would be critical to the ever-growing metropolis, and this meant his wife was invited too. As outlandish as City Underwater sounded, they knew the name Andrew Ryan as many did, and had no choice but to take this opportunity or continue living in fear. As soon as they could, Mortimer, Nina, and Ada followed proper instructions to get themselves to the mid-Atlantic, smuggling Ada in by passing her off as Nina's mother-in-law. They left everything behind in Kansas, preparing a new life where nobody could find them. After converting what money they had to Rapture dollars, a brand new life for Ada and Nina was exactly what they achieved. With Ryan setting up a position in Hephaestus for Mortimer to work, Nina lived as a housewife in their Apollo Square apartment. Ada lived just a few doors down. She found work as an assembly line worker for one of Ryan Industries' ammunition factories, which she hated passionately, but knew was the only way she could continue living in Apollo Square. Sadly, as relieved as she was to be rid of prosecution, Ada still missed the fast life she once lived on the surface. Now that she was a free citizen once again, most of her paycheck was spent on more alcohol as time went by. Her wilting demeanor and lack of self-care began to increase, and she gained a significant amount of weight too. She spent her weekends partying in places like Popper's Drop and other underground joints. She still visited with Nina on a regular basis, and continued their friendship in a more civil manner. But it wasn't until Dr. Bridget Tenenbaum's discovery of Adam that made Ada's downward spiral go even deeper. As the genetic substance began to hit the market for recreational use, Ada Johnson, like so many others, began getting addicted to the injectable. That, plus her alcoholism, did not treat her body kindly. On top of her fast and hard living with booze, the Adam consumption blotched her skin and slightly contorted her face. Nina, on the other hand, very much enjoyed her new life in Rapture. It wasn't anything fancy. In fact, the money Mortimer brought home on the surface was much greater than the pay he made in Rapture. But being a mundane housewife who hardly ever spliced was more than enough for Nina to find serenity out of life. The only drawback were Mortimer's seemingly never-ending shifts. With the amount of time he spent building and repairing the city, Nina basically lived alone. After about a decade, both Ada and Nina's old lives would reignite to a degree. After controversial actions like the killing of Frank Fontaine, the increasing tensions of the working class, and the rise of Atlas, Apollo Square would become a crime-ridden slum by 1958. Life mostly remained normal for these two women, until one day Ada Johnson came home from work one day to receive a strange phone call from a man named Joshua. He explained that he had been keeping a close eye on her and her demeanor at work, specifically noting that she had been at the ammunition factory for some time now, never really enjoying the fruits of her labor, or living up to the quote-unquote Rapture dream that Andrew Ryan liked to advertise. To a degree, he was correct. Without needing much convincing, Joshua gave Ada the offer of a lifetime: join the working man in the opposition to change Rapture for the better, or keep living under Andrew Ryan's boot till she drops. Her final decision was clear. Following the phone call, Ada stopped by Nina's place to take the load off and have normal conversation. Nina had been noticing the decline in her friend's health for a while now and wasn't afraid to bring it up, but Ada denied anything was wrong with her. Then she brought up the phone call and did her best to rationalize the idea of stopping everything to band with Atlas, including Nina. Nina was in complete shock by this idea and lashed out at her friend for even flirting with the plan. But Ada was confident in convincing Nina to join her, laying out clear points of how life was yet to improve nearly 10 years in Rapture, and how Mortimer breaks his back each day to keep the city running with little reward. She also details how Apollo Square is no place to someday raise a family, which Nina was wanting to do.
Nothing you're gonna do now is gonna save you from this sewer they call a living space. Don't you see that? Huh?
I don't know.
I do, Nina. You know all Atlas is a label by Ryan. Ryan's gonna tell you what's bad and who's bad. You see, he wants to keep us working gals in line. We've all got a place here, but it ain't on his great chain.
Then what is all this for? Why would Ryan want us to come down here?
Andrew Ryan didn't want you here. He wanted your husband.
These were really all valid points on Ada's part, but when asked what work under Atlas specifically meant, she promised her after some legwork, Joshua would set them up with lax desk jobs together and make enough money to someday move to Olympus Heights, basically the Beverly Hills of Rapture. Though Ada's lecture woke her up a bit, Nina still wasn't convinced to quite possibly end up on the other side of the law again. Ada did her best to calm Nina down outside of the hallway, but then an angry mugger interrupted their talk by holding the pair up at gunpoint, demanding money. Ada responded quickly by pulling out her own and gunning down the mugger before anything could happen. If this wasn't enough proof that Nina should make change, nothing would. To the delight of Ada, her friend got the message and agreed to join Atlas's revolution. The proposition was simple. Those who want to be part of the cause had to contribute to the cause, so an initiation fee of Atom was called for. Miss Johnson had a production manager at her factory job that literally had a safe of the stuff for any workplace injuries, and other gene tonics that boosted productivity of the workers. That was where they would get it. Nina chose to keep this whole mission away from Mortimer for now, so she hoped the end result would come quickly. Further on into the night, both ladies entered the ammunition factory, and thanks to Ada's knowledge of the place, successfully evaded the automated security systems. As Ada began cracking the safe, Nina, still clouded by doubt, couldn't recall a time she felt a rush like this any time recently, and actually felt optimistic about an honest cause that benefited folks of her class. With that being said, Ada passes along that she was told by Joshua that all new recruits were given a personal audience with Atlas, someone that Ada in particular had been dying to meet even before knowing how to join. In fact, she had quite a crush on him. Now that the Atom supply was theirs, the next step was to deliver it through one of Rapture's pneumo tubes and follow up with the mysterious Joshua himself. Somewhere in another portion of the city, the girls met him in an unmarked storage room decked out with plans and communication devices, only to discover that Joshua was only a cover name. Their contact was actually Henry Masters, former Frank Fontaine associate and a high-ranking member in Atlas's growing army. He was pleased of how smooth the Atom robbery was and commended their efforts. The mood would unfortunately go southward since both girls assumed that this was a job that would land them easy, high-paying careers as promised, more specifically Nina, who especially didn't want to pick up a crime spree again. However, Henry had other plans for them. The career they wanted was still in arm's reach, but it was going to take a little more elbow grease to get to it. If a true overhaul in Rapture was going to take place, a little more than theft would have to be done. Ada was actually more angry she wouldn't get to meet Atlas soon. She even drew a pistol at Henry, only for Ada to stop her. Before things could escalate further, Henry Masters had a new job for the girls: meet with another contact and collectively snatch little sister from a big daddy he's been monitoring. This completely threw off the pair, and Ada made it clear that they wouldn't be swindled anymore. She still believed in the cause and managed to coax Nina into continuing the effort. She confirmed to Nina that they would each be living in the lap of luxury before they knew it. They met with this contact, a Hephaestus worker named Homer Walker, and he explained to the ladies that the goal would be to simply distract the enormous guardian so they could take the little sister when it was busy. Nina had no clue what process had to take place to remove the Atom from one of these girls, but that wasn't the job. Once it was delivered to Henry, he would handle the rest. Had she known what really happens, she would have likely backed out. The daddy and the little sister have been carefully monitored over a series of weeks, and the plan was to attack once it was out of range of Rapture security cameras. Some paces ahead, Homer prepared the first carefully placed shot, but Ada suddenly opened fire wildly on the big daddy, making Homer its first target. Walker was immediately rushed and impaled by the daddy, giving her time to run and grab the little sister and flee with a very shocked Nina. The selfish sacrifice looked good on the report, however, making it look like Ada and Nina saved a job that went nowhere near according to plan. Following this, the pair received a payout far beyond their expectations. Within the span of a few days, Nina packed her bags and moved to Olympus Heights with Mortimer. He kept his job for the time being, but was a happy man to know he'd come home to such a lavish place. Nina kept her transparency about working with Atlas with him, but Mortimer understood her actions as they've done far worse in the past. She never heard back from Henry or any of Atlas's associates, considering she had been forgotten by the movement, but this was fine by her. Nina hadn't been in contact with Ada since the incident. She was likely busy herself. As they each spent the last few days of peace Rapture had to offer, on December 31st, 1958, Nina would get a phone call from Ada, inviting her to celebrate their newfound fortune at the Kashmir restaurant for New Year's. Nina was happy to accept and prepared herself for the evening. As the masquerade party began that night, Nina met up with her best pal atop one of the Kashmir's balconies overlooking the upper-class ball. They were excited to see each other and updated each other on how life on the bright side of things was working out so far. Ada was happy to hear Nina living somewhere safe with her husband, and Nina herself was preparing a move as well. She even went as far as getting some plastic surgery from Dr. Steinman done, and using expensive gene tonics like Brain Boost to up her intelligence. As it seemed like nothing could change the high spirits, Ada's intentions of inviting Nina to the party were under wraps. To Nina's surprise, Ada informed her friend that they were to pull yet another job for the cause. This angered Nina and sent her on a tirade, questioning why she would continue to stay loyal to a cause that lied to them. To Nina, the high-risk job that killed Homer Walker was the line in the sand, since it was obvious the promises of a cozy job in the end wasn't happening. Ada, still a loyal freedom fighter, took offense to this claim. She found it despicable that Nina thought the work ended with their last job, and that she basically fled with the money she made with no intention of returning. In the middle of their argument, a security guard presented both women with their festive masks for the occasion. He left both of them with one, and they discovered that either mask had a pistol strapped underneath it. Nina asked what this was all about, and Ada explained that their next order of business would be the biggest of them all: declare war on Andrew Ryan. This meant disrupting the city in the most violent way possible to signal that Atlas and his forces were coming full swing. Why did Ada invite Nina to come to the Kashmir? To kill everyone in sight with the rest of the militia. Hearing this news put Nina on full lockdown. She always knew her friend was on the rougher sort, but she never would resort to mindlessly killing civilians. Ada always lived for money and pleasure, but never would Nina had thought that she would go as far as this. Maybe it was the almost 10 years of splicing and heavy drinking that had gotten to her. Or maybe the urge to live a life of crime could only be held down for so long. Nina wasn't having any of it. She said she could have her revolution, but she would take no part in it.
We both know how it ends tonight. Our big moment is now, and I'm not going to be remembered as the gal who didn't fire her gun.
That's it, Ada. You've swooned me into enough damn opportunities I could barely squeeze my conscience by, but this... all to create a message?
Not only a message, but a declaration. A declaration of war, of which the likes of Rapture has never seen before.
And I won't stop you, Ada. But I'll be taking my leave before any of this escalates. Do you not hear yourself right now? War? With Ryan? Really?
Yes, really. I've been in the know about this great day for a little while now, and Atlas, along with the rest of us, are going to have our vengeance. Maybe you're just too blind. Or Andrew Ryan hasn't fucked you long enough.
Let go of me. I said let go of me.
Not until you grab this gun and fight for family.
But as she walked away, Ada grabbed her by the arm and argued there was no way she was backing out now, and that she was still under Andrew Ryan's spell. As the clock counted down to midnight, the pair struggled as each wanted opposite things. Nina wanted to leave, and Ada refused to let her. Promptly, New Year's Day was upon them, and the attack began on the Kashmir, plus other parts of Rapture. As bombs went off and bullets went flying, Ada focused on keeping Nina still, but she had enough. In what seemed like a second, Nina grabbed the gun from underneath the mask and fired a shot into Ada's stomach, sending her ex-best friend on the floor writhing in pain. After realizing what she had just done, Nina vacated the restaurant before anyone could notice. It's now a few days into January, and Nina Thompson pulls as much money as she can from the bank, and then returns to Mortimer and their Olympus Heights home. Her husband was now out of a job due to the war, and they spent most of their time waiting indoors listening to war reports. In the meantime, Ada Johnson had been recovered by Atlas's men following the attack, and laying incapacitated in one of the militia's hospitals. By now, her relapse of Adam had taken such a toll that both her physical and mental state fell further than ever before. Ada's face in particular had gotten so damaged, it's as if she never had plastic surgery in the first place. This, and she seemed to be in a constant state of inebriation for hours at a time. This wouldn't be the end of Ada and Nina, though. Now that Ada's wounds were healing, she was planning a personal and quite brutal retaliation for her former best friend and partner in crime. I'm afraid that's all I can review for now, but you can see what happens next once After Midnight hits my channel. Be sure to give this video a like and consider becoming a patron if you want to support creations like this or my oldies music app A-Bomb Radio. Becoming a patron means you'll be open to different benefits such as shoutouts, sneak peeks, and even downloadable versions of my radio shows. Those who appreciate the music of these games and vintage music in general are all welcome to download A-Bomb Radio for free on their preferred app store. Leave a review, would you kindly?